Thank you, Claudia. Do you want to sort of set up your presentation? So, Claudia Benetello obviously is going to talk about the transcreation from the transcreation professional perspective. And the title of her talk is When Translation is Not Enough, Transcreation as a Convention-Defying Practice. So this will probably feed quite nicely into the debate we've just started. So 25 minutes until the famed coffee break. I don't want to rush you, but if you want a minute of question time, then again.
All right.
Let's start now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. When I was 17, I attended a summer course in English literature at the University of Westminster, so it's a huge, huge pleasure and honour for me to be here today to talk about transcreation. In my opinion, transcreation is not glorified translation, and it's not even a synonym for creative translation, because calling it creative translation would mean that translation per se is not creative, and I disagree with that, because as we said before, it's never been a word-for-word translation. It is true that different kinds of texts give us different degrees of freedom when it comes to rendering them, and it's pretty obvious that a technical manual does not allow us the same degree of freedom as advertising or marketing copy. But in my opinion, transcreation should be regarded as a different practice altogether. And it's not working. Nice. What we have here is a translation evaluation grid, basically the average grid used by translation agencies to assess translations. It contains 8 error categories: wrong term, syntactic error, omission, addition, word structure and agreement error, misspelling, punctuation error, and miscellaneous error. So what I'm going to do is take 7 of these categories, apply them to transcreation, and see what happens. And the idea is that these errors are only errors when it comes to translation, because in transcreation they're not errors at all. In fact, they are a plus, because breaking the rules is a plus when it comes to transcreation. Wrong term, of course, the question mark is in order, because, again, this is not an example of wrong term error in transcreation. This is a famous tagline for Audi. It says Vorsprung durch Technik. Basically, the idea is that Audi is one step ahead of the competition because of its technology, of its engineering. So an English back translation would be head start through engineering. The Italian version of this tagline is all'avanguardia della tecnica, which could be rendered as at the forefront of engineering, but avanguardia here is being used figuratively because, of course, avanguardia is a military term, which is the equivalent of Vorhut in German or vanguard in English. So here it's perfectly fine to render Vorsprung durch Technik with all'avanguardia della tecnica, but there may be cases, there may be fields in translation where terminology is key, and translation is not the case, where rendering Vorsprung with avanguardia could be flagged as a mistake. Syntactic error, another very famous tagline for L'Oreal, dating back to the early 70s, because you're worth it. It used to be because I'm worth it, and then it was turned to because you're worth it. The Italian version of this tagline is pretty literal, pretty faithful, perché voi valete, meaning because you're worth it. But to me, the interesting thing is you have a dependent clause without the main clause. And in other sectors, in other fields, in other translation fields, you may not have a dependent clause without the main clause. You can't just say, perché voi valete full stop. But here, because it's promotional, because it's persuasive copy, you can do that. This slide, this example, actually features 2 error categories, omission and addition together. And this is taken from the Jaguar website. And it says, seductive design, intuitive technology, and exhilarating performance. XJ is much more than a luxury saloon. So you've got 3 elements here. design, technology, and performance. The Italian version of this very sentence basically says the perfect mix of seductive design and intuitive technology. XJ redefines the concept of luxury saloon. So in my opinion, there's an omission because he only talks about design and technology but not performance. And I'm not sure why this happened. Maybe the following paragraph dealt specifically with performance. We don't know. But still, looking at this first sentence, there is an omission. And in my opinion, there are also two additions, because the Italian is saying that this is the fusione perfetta, is a perfect mix, whereas the English only mentioned the three elements and then went over the rest of the sentence. And the Italian is also saying that XJ redefines the concept of luxury saloon, whereas the English just said is much more than a luxury saloon. So here, again, it's perfectly fine to have an omission and two additions like this, but there are cases in other fields, in other sectors, where this would be marked as a proper mistake. This is another very interesting case in my opinion, and this is from the late 50s, I think 1959. This is a headline for ESSO, for Exxon, for gasoline, and it says, "Put a tiger in your tank." So the idea is that this fuel, this gasoline, is like a tiger for your car, for the tank of your car. But "Put a tiger in your tank" has some musicality that basically recreates the engine roar. And this, of course, had to be retained in the Italian version of it, which goes, "Metti un tigre nel motore." So the first thing is, the tank became the engine, because tank is serbatoio, so metti un tigre nel tuo serbatoio doesn't really work. Motore, on the other hand, because of the T and the R sounds, recreates the engine roar. But the particular thing about it is that tigre is we got feminine and masculine nouns in Italian. Tigre is a feminine noun, so it should be la tigre or una tigre. But here they just dropped the A and it became un tigre, which is grammatically incorrect. This may be due to the fact that cars are largely associated with men, with a male audience, and maybe even more so in the late 50s, early 60s. They wanted to avoid any, let's say, female associations. But in my opinion, the reason why they turned it into a masculine noun is that because it improves the rhythm. Metti una tigre nel motore, metti un tigre nel motore. It just improves the flow and the rhythm and the musicality. But again, if you're translating a documentary for National Geographic and you write un tigre instead of una tigre, you're probably going to lose the job because it's an actual mistake. Here, it's like a poetic license. And in fact, copywriters originally were poets that, had to do copywriting as well to make a living. Another funny case, misspelling, and this is the packaging for vapor rub, decongestant for colds. That's the, let's say, the English packaging. So the brand name is Vicks, V-I-C-K-S. This is the packaging for German-speaking countries. So basically, Vicks, written like this, would be pronounced fix in German. I'm not sure whether there's any German speakers in the room, but it has to do with ficken, and ficken is the equivalent of the F word. So they changed the V to a W, but they had to drop the S because vixen also would have some sexual innuendo. So here, again, it's not a typo at all. There's a precise reason why the brand name was changed to Vicks, from Vicks to Wick, Vic actually in German, and it's a deliberate decision to be appropriate for the target culture, of course. And we've got some miscellaneous errors here. Of course, these are not errors at all. So this is the tagline for Haribo. So we're talking about candies, we're talking about a happy world. We want to evoke the idea of being happy and free and playful. So yes, the Germans say Haribo makes children happy and grown-ups happy too, but it doesn't work that way, because it says Haribo macht Kinder froh und Erwachsene ebenso. So the whole musicality and the atmosphere of the original had to be recreated in the different languages. So they're all saying the same thing and they're all saying a different thing. And this is even more crucial. I mean, the idea of having a rhyme and having a rhythm is even more crucial when you have a jingle, like in this case. Another very interesting example, in my opinion, of what Transcreation is all about is this tagline for Swiffer dust cloths. This is the old tagline that we're using, which says, when Swiffer's the one, consider it done. So it has a rhyme, it's memorable, it works quite well. Let's have a look at the Italian version of it. La polvere non dura perché Swiffer la cattura. So it retains the rhyme, it retains the rhythm, but it says something completely different, because it mentions the mechanism, Swiffer catches dust, and it also mentions the benefit for consumer, dust doesn't linger. So in this respect, this Transcreation is even more effective, and it works even better than the original. And this, again, as an example of fake, of course, miscellaneous error, I like to talk about my own experience. This is the tagline for Norton Antivirus. Its short version, it's boldly go, and its long version is go boldly, not blindly. So this is, of course, a reference to Star Trek, to boldly go where no man has gone before, which could not be retained in Italian, because the Italian version of that line from Star Trek basically had left out the boldly. So there was no way I could retain a link, a cultural reference to Star Trek. But there's more than that, because boldly go was meant as a mantra. It was meant by the company as an exhortation to live without fear, to become the best version of yourself, to keep moving forward. And there was also a layout element to take into account, because as you can see, letter O in Go has the tick symbol. So the client asked, where possible, to retain at least one letter O anywhere in the line so that the tick symbol could be kept. And the Italian version that I came up with is punta in alto, and punta in alto senza rischi. Punta in alto figuratively means aim high, embrace the bar, but literally means lay a stake. So the idea of laying a stake could be useful for me to create a contrast with the second part of the sentence, because I'm saying aim high / lay a stake without risks. You can go online, make online transactions, send emails, share files, and be safe, because with Norton Antivirus, you're in good hands, you're not running any risks. And this also helped to retain the tick symbol within letter O. So in my opinion, there's no way that marketing and advertising copy can be translated. In my opinion, Transcreation is the only option. And my own personal definition of Transcreation is writing, advertising, or marketing copy for a specific market. So advertising or marketing copy, meaning persuasive promotional copy, promotional text, starting from copy written in a source language, otherwise it would be copywriting. And I, for one, distinguish between copywriting and Transcreation, because I do both. I both write marketing and advertising copy in Italian from scratch, and adapt German or English-speaking marketing copy or advertising copy into Italian. So starting from copy written in a source language, as if the target text had originated in the target language and culture. And in my opinion, there are 4 skills involved. First of all, language skills, because of course we're working with copy that's not in our own language and we need to understand it, of course. So a transcreation professional is, let's say, 1/4 translator, but they've got to have copywriting skills, and the target text must be as punchy as the original and consistent with the communication strategy that's been decided by the client. And again, these sort of adaptations or transcreation, whatever you want to call them, used to be performed by copywriters within, let's say, the local office of advertising agencies. So this kind of work that we are doing now used to be performed by copywriters. So this probably means that copywriting skills are crucial. And as a matter of fact, a transcreation professional is also 1/4 copywriter, in my opinion. Then there's, of course, cultural sensitivity, meaning that the target text must be appropriate for the target culture. And, of course, in inverted commas, a transcreation professional is also a cultural anthropologist. They need to know what is appropriate for their target culture, but also they must have local market understanding, meaning that the target text must be appropriate for the target market. We are adapting copy for brands that have competitors, and we need to know what wording, what images, what concepts their competitors are using at the moment, so that we, in our transcreation work, avoid using something that's already been used by somebody else, by some other brands or some other companies. So in this respect, a transcreation professional is also a marketer. But if we say that a transcreation professional is all of this, then a transcreation professional is not a language service provider, but rather a consultant, in my opinion. We may be asked not just to adapt the copy once it's there, but also to evaluate brand names, making sure that there's no negative associations with our culture, with our language, just like the big example. We may have to research a bit the situation and make sure that the concept being used for that particular television commercial is not currently used by competitors. And this is coming before the actual translation work. And then, and again, I speak from my own experience, when we adapt television commercials, we may have to go to the recording studio, and this is what I usually do, to direct the actors who are going to read the lines that we adapted from one language to another. It's more like a consulting service, rather than just give me the lines, give me the text, and I'll translate it. Also because there's lots of back and forth, as we just said before, and you need to provide multiple options. I think you were mentioning that. Also explaining your reasons and maybe back translating into English when it's a multinational company. So, in my opinion, this is the reason why I would regard it as a different practice, because in translation you usually translate, send the work, and maybe hear from a proofreader if there's any doubts. Whereas here it's more collaborative and there's also back and forth. But also, I would regard it as a different practice because it involves different skills that may not be required for different kinds of, let's say, translation work. It has to do with specialization, of course, but it's a bit more than that. I would regard it as a service between copywriting and translation. Yeah, I hope I've made my point, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.